Welcome to Mike's Retro Curiosities, where we explore the wonderful world of retro games. Today we are exploring the classic 1982 arcade game Q*bert. Q*bert was created by classic pinball manufacturer Gottlieb. It was programmed by Warren Davis with art by Jeff Lee. The story of this game's creation is actually pretty interesting. It basically started off as a graphical demo. Basically, a guy created a series of isometric colored cubes on a screen, and they more or less built the game around that. What they made really stood out and was very much unlike anything people had really seen at the time. It was very surreal, even by the standards of the time. You know, games back then could get very surreal, like Pac-Man and such. It was almost like a cartoony version of something that M.C. Escher would make. Beyond that, it should also be noted that this was one of the first games to utilize a pseudo 3D perspective using an isometric viewpoint, which would go on to great acclaim with games like Saxon and later games like Super Mario RPG, but was still fairly new at the time. Gameplay has players controlling the titular Q*bert as he hops around a pyramid of cubes. With each cube he hops onto, he changes its color, and the goal is to change all the cubes to the same color. Monsters can't really be defeated, though they do pose a threat to Q*bert. However, Q*bert can sort of turn the tables on them by essentially luring them off the edge of the pyramid and to their death. At higher levels, tiles need to be changed twice, and a new enemy is introduced that doesn't pose a physical threat to Q*bert, but will start changing the colors of the cubes that you've already changed, sort of undoing his progress. As with many games from this time, Q*bert was easy to learn but very difficult to master. The game really ramped up in difficulty very quickly. Ultimately, it requires a combination of strategy and quick reflexes to really master the game. The game is highly addictive, and quite frankly, it's a lot of fun. This is really a timeless classic from the arcade golden age, and probably one of my favorite games from this era in particular. Q*bert as a character has kind of even transcended the arcade golden age, despite never really having all that many follow-ups, not nearly as much as, say, Pac-Man would have. He's still well remembered and would even make appearances in movies like Wreck-It Ralph. Now, as was common for successful arcade games of this time, Q*bert was ported pretty much to every platform known to man at the time. The porting jobs were done by, at least initially, by Parker Brothers. These are a few of the versions I happen to have. First, you have the Atari 2600 version. It plays pretty well, but the graphics are obviously very rough. It really could not even come close to replicating the arcade. Still, it played okay. So if it was all you had, you could get by with this. This one's the Atari 8-bit computer version. This one actually plays quite well. It's a very solid version. This one's the Atari 5200 version, which I actually have complete in box, as you can see. Unfortunately, it does kind of suffer from the Atari 5200's controller, not just because it was notoriously unreliable, but because it's rather like it uses analog inputs, and for a fast-paced arcade game like this, you really want a good digital input. The Atari's 5200 joystick is just too mushy and too imprecise for this style of game. You also have the NES version, which was done later. This one was done by Ultra Games, which was a publishing label of Konami. Also a very solid version, although by the time it came out, most players really weren't into these sorts of single-screen arcade games anymore. Lastly, I've got this mini arcade version, which basically plays the NES version. It's also very good. Now, unfortunately, as far as I know, there haven't really been all that many sort of arcade-perfect versions of Q*bert. I think that there was one on PlayStation Network, but that was about it. Q*bert would have a number of follow-ups. Most immediately, there was Q*bert Cubes, which was a sequel. It was a fairly decent game, but kind of overcomplicated things. You also had Qbert 3 as well as the PlayStation Qbert reboot. Both of these were okay, I guess, but honestly, they kind of detracted from the pure simplicity of the original. Gottlieb themselves never really was able to successfully create a follow-up to Qbert. They managed to produce a few other games, some of which were actually pretty good, but they never really quite managed to catch on in the way that Qbert had. Eventually, the company went bankrupt, and I believe that now the rights to Qbert are actually owned by Sony, and they haven't done a whole lot with it, as far as I know. So that is Qbert. Definitely an all-time great. Definitely a game that I would recommend anyone play who's either into old school games or is looking to explore the history of the medium, or even just who's looking to have a good time with an arcade style game. So that'll be it for today. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Today's episode is brought to you by M&M Games, who were gracious enough to let me borrow this NES version of Qbert, which I did not have. Yeah, I somehow have the Atari 8-bit version and the 5200 version, but not the common as dirt NES version. Go figure. But I will catch you guys in the next one.